When is it time for you to hire a full-time videographer for your company or brand? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Claudio, owner of WinRate Consulting, host of the Big Stud podcast. As my company and brand and content strategy has evolved, it has been challenging to keep a freelancer or a part-timer or any type of external, we'll say support system, keeping up with demand. And I've grown the podcast, I've grown the YouTube channel, the Instagram, the TikTok, the Facebook, all this stuff, and ultimately the team has grown as well. So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. So Ryan and I, who you guys have known for a long time, pretty much shot every video you've seen me do for the last 3 to 4 years. We kind of started our journey of Ryan Weber Marketing and WinRate Consulting kind of started around the same time. He was a little bit ahead of me because he had been doing some part-time stuff, but really creating a brand, we kind of started at the same time. We've kind of evolved together, but if I look at how really making the decision to separate Mike Claudio brand from WinRate company was really the deciding factor for me. Looking at how much I wanted to start plugging in the behind the scenes stuff. That was the big difference. It's easy to get together once a month, which we're doing today. We'll shoot videos for 2 to 3 hours. We'll get 20 to 30 videos done, and that's enough for the month. If you can do that, great, stick with that. But what's hard to do with that is catch more of that reactive content that happens throughout the month. The B-roll with your family, the B-roll at a company meeting, the B-roll at an event, capturing things in the moment. It's like more of that authentic raw. Like I know I communicate authentically, vulnerably, quick, concise on video. Most people suck at that. So catching you in your work environment, catching you in your life, catching you at the gym, catching you with your family tends to deliver a more authentic feel. Very difficult to do with a freelancer or a company that's providing the service. So as my brand has grown, there were 3 things that really were the deciding factor for me. One was I moved, and finding a new videographer in a new environment in a new city can be very difficult. And I interviewed several and I looked out for several, but most of them just wanted to stay freelancer. They wanted to come and go. They didn't really want to travel, all that. So that was the first thing. I was like, Ryan, he's 2 hours away now. Him and Cooper just can't be here every week. It's just not efficient. So efficiency was the first deciding factor. How do I become more efficient? Not just for me, but for them. Like I want it to be efficient for everybody because I don't want people like, oh my God, we gotta drive to Greenville again. That's Mike. I don't need that because then that creates a negative environment, a negative feel, and ultimately not the best product possible. Look, I'm great to be with. I'm sure Cooper would agree, but driving 2 hours every week to create content is not fun. So efficiency was the first step. Second was understanding what increases I wanted to make to my content. So shooting videos like this once a month for YouTube, we can cut out the shorts, we can repurpose some stuff, we can create some intentional short content, which we'll do today in a different scene, different part of the house, different wardrobe, we'll make some changes. But other things that happened for me specifically was the podcast. And right now, as the podcast has sat, I can only do them on my computer via Zoom, and that's the only video content we have. Well, as you can imagine, as the other video content increases and you post this grainy ass video of this Zoom video for a podcast release, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't represent how the brand. I think brand consistency was number 2. So efficiency number 1, brand consistency number 2. If you're using different videographers, if you're using different cameras, if you're using different scenes, different lighting opportunities, different whatever, different skill sets, different editing capacities, your brand's gonna have an inconsistent feel for it. And for me, having consistency in my brand has been important for me forever because I don't want to develop any type of brand distrust. And I'm not saying that people don't trust me, but when the brand is inconsistent, people will believe in you inconsistently, they'll engage with you inconsistently, they'll watch inconsistently, and it does not create retention of audience. Growing an audience is not just attracting new, it's consistently keeping the people you have. So that consistency of look, that consistency of feel, I can't do the podcast, I can't do events, I can't get stuff with my family, I can't capture team meetings and shoot YouTube and podcasts and all those things with a team that only shows up once a month. And I'm not knocking them, but that's what I pay them for. And ultimately, it's gonna cost me more to have a full-time videographer from a monthly expense. But if I look at what I spent for Ryan to travel me to Dallas or go to an event, and we're also increasing our event count, that brand consistency is gonna be even more important this year, especially as the team has grown. So third, efficiency, consistency. Third is ultimately capacity. The capacity needs of the brand, both the Mike Claudio, WinRate, as the team has grown, as our event count increases, paying somebody to come to 30 events next year is gonna be incredibly costly. So I can pay somebody, which might be a higher salary, a higher overhead, but ultimately if I look at total expense for the service, I'm going to increase the quantity, I'm going to increase the consistency, and I'm going to increase the amount of times I can have this person on site while ultimately decreasing my costs. So if you're not shooting content multiple times a month, if you're not shooting content on multiple locations, if you're not traveling with this person, it probably doesn't make sense to have a full-time videographer. Even if you're, let's say, a contractor and you want to shoot weekly content of job sites, I still think it makes more sense to have a freelance hired help, not an employee. But as WinRate, we're at the point now, we're gonna be doing 30 to 40 events in 2023, and it'll grow as we go. I have 8 coaches on the team now that I wanna create consistent content for. Like, most of them are creating content on their own, but I wanna be able to create a consistent feel to the distribution strategy. And ultimately, I wanna increase the video quality of the podcast, which is not just a once a month recording. I release 3 podcast episodes a week. I release a Mike's Monday Motivation, which is a monologue of me talking. I release a Wednesday interview with me interviewing somebody, and I release a Friday Ask Mike Anything, where somebody asks me questions on a weekly basis. You can't get that done once a month, nor do you want to. Even if you could, it'd be miserable. And the content wouldn't be as good because you'd be freaking exhausted. So the cadence at which I'm gonna need video created. So if you look at efficiency of utilization, consistency of brand creation and distribution, and then ultimately the capacity demands of this individual, that is what led me to believe it was time to hire a full-time videographer. If you have questions about that, I can connect you to Ryan and Cooper. I can connect you to the person I end up hiring. I can get you, plugged in, because I'm in the process now of looking for somebody. I hired somebody, didn't work out pretty quickly, and I'm in the process now of interviewing some additional candidates. Ultimately, I'll have this figured out soon because I need it. The brand needs it. The financial investment it brings value, and ultimately, I really want to level up the consistency and the capacity of the amount of content we put out. So those are a few different things I did to determine it was time for me to hire a full-time videographer. If you, again, are not creating content at that capacity or that cadence, I don't think it maybe would be worth hiring somebody full-time. And to put it into context, I was paying Ryan somewhere between $3,500 and $5,000 a month, plus additional fees for travel. I'm looking at spending, 80 to 100 grand total investment into a full-time videographer between salary, travel, some additional stuff, some bonuses that might fall into that, just to give it some context on kind of what the price difference is. If someone's saying I can do this for $500 a month, do not hire that person. I don't care if it's freelance or not. I've seen people say, oh, they can do all this for like $1,200. This is great. You say that till you get the content back, and you're like, that wasn't great. It wasn't worth the time I put into it. So you should expect to be spending between $3,000 to $5,000 a month if you're having any type of quantity distribution. If you're shooting a video here or there, it makes sense. Just today, we'll shoot 20 to 30 videos. 6 to 8 of them will be long format, 20 or so of them will be short format, and that's what the day is. But you're really paying them for the editing skill set on the back end as well. So I'm not gonna get into what I would do to look for a videographer, because that is a wildly different conversation. But if it's time to look at efficiency, look at consistency, and look at capacity. If those 3 things look like you can't make them happen with who you have, it might be time for you to hire yourself a videographer. Ultimately, if you have questions on this, these are the types of decisions we work on in our coaching program. Comment below, shoot me a DM, whatever it means to you to connect with me. Go to winrateconsulting.com if you have questions more about what we offer. You go to mikeclaudio.com if you want to learn more about me. There's a whole website just about me now. I know, I'm cool. Ego. I'm like kind of a narcissist, but I'm not, like just narcissistic tendencies. But I'm a really nice guy. But go check it out. Go to mikeclaudio.com. We've really put a lot of effort into that website to show you the overarching umbrella of the things I do between WinRate, between the Champion Shoes, our nonprofit, between all the different content strategy distribution channels we have. But I want to connect with you so that I and my team can help you win fast and win often.